Welcome to another episode of A Question of Meaning with Arthur and Katie. We actually have turned the camera on without any clear idea of what we're going to talk about.
None whatsoever.
Which is always a rather heady experience. But, you know, we were, on our last show, we called it Getting Real because it was about, you know, being more honest about what's going on in our lives. And that's what you said you wanted in the show. So I kind of assumed that whatever we talked about, it would be in that vein, something more real.
One of the messages of our show is our theory that we're all insane on an operational level, and just because we all conform, most of us conform, the poor unfortunates who can't conform, we say they're the real nuts, and we put them away or medicate them half to death. But all of us who walk around loose, because we all basically conform to the tribal rules, we designate ourselves sane. And just because we're writing this stuff and theorizing this stuff, and we think we can logically back up this stuff, doesn't mean we're immune from insanity, as hopefully the last two shows have indicated. We have a lot of relationship problems, and you know, I have a great deal of problem just accepting reality as it is, objective reality. It took years off my life, George W. Bush in the White House, for instance, and that was an objective reality. There was basically an incompetent running the most powerful country in the world. At that time, we were the most powerful. I don't think we are anymore. That's what you get when you put somebody like George W. Bush on the White House for 8 years. Anyway, I was going to say, because I did have something that came to me that you haven't heard about. I think my chief problem in life, and I think the chief problem in our relationship, because Katie graduated from Northwestern, came to San Francisco and met me right away, and she was intrigued by the things I had to say about life, and the promise I seemed to hold out for a better way of being that is about nothing but what this show is about, a question of meaning. Well, I was questioning meaning then, 30 years ago. My problem is I'm fascinated by it. I've had incredible experiences of, pardon me, the validity of it. I can't even say it. Get the out of my throat, Satan.
And watch the way you hold that cup.
Oh, yeah, we can't show any labels.
Even though it has nothing to do with Asheville.
In any case, you can type on my hair now.
So
I've had profound experiences of the validity of this stuff, cosmic experiences up the wazoo. I've even been in the church a couple of times and had the validation of the existence of to put it mildly, a power greater than myself, which really isn't that tough a check at. But considering my ego, getting that it exists is really something. I've written books on the subject. All my songs are about the subject. I talk a great talk. I believe in with all my heart, no matter how much I hate and despise myself, that the work is true and valid. But I have a hell of a time living it. I am an incredibly self-indulgent, really lazy person. I don't, somehow I got a very bad work ethic when I was being raised. And my mother, there's my mother and my grandmother. My father made one child support payment after the divorce when I was 5, and I never saw him again. My mother let me get away with everything. My grandmother was a harsh, work ethic, Christian, puritanical Nazi. God love her. She did the very best she could. But I have always felt the road with the least amount of effort. You know, two paths diverged in a wood. One was a rocky climb to the sun, and the other was kind of a downhill slide into oblivion. The downhill slide has always looked the best. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the songs. I don't know how many of you folks or watch our show regularly. We really don't get that many calls. It'll be interesting to see who shows up at the library that night. But I mean, they're incredible songs. John Denver recorded one of my songs. Bernie Leadon, when he left the Eagles, was working on an all Bernie Leadon album. And Irving Azoff, the Eagles manager, Linda Ronstadt's manager, thought one of my songs was definitely the single. I mean, of all this promise. Tim Allen, Tool Man, loved our first book, The Game of God. He plugged it in his New York Times bestseller. Said, if you really have your poo-poo together, read, before 11 o'clock. The kids will probably think that's funnier than the good old Anglo-Saxon four-letter jobby. Gave us a plug. Love the work. I feel like I've been toyed with by life. That this message is real and it's vital. And the book we're working on now is just basically incredible. It's incredible. It's a 21st century psychology. It posits that what's really wrong with us, why the world looks like it's crazy, is because we are crazy. We are insane. So I know all this stuff. I've had all these near simmering into the 100 bits, but there's something in me, and I really think I got just a quiet handle on it, and I've got glimpses of this before, but last week I got that basically I think I'm a piece of crap. That's my self-estimation. Thank you, subjective ego. And yet I've been, for some reason, a conduit to work, to songs and books and ideas that are great. I mean, there's no other word for it. I mean, I know, in the scheme of Zen thought, I love you, baby, but you don't dress cool, is just as vital as The Game of God, our first book. See, I roll my eyes because I don't really believe that. Our new psychology are the keys to compassion. This is about the truth. I'm a truth seeker who talks a good talk, has had amazing insights. When I met Katie, I was in the church for the first time. Just after I met her, I had this born-again experience. And I was telling this friend after what I'm about to say happened, we were sitting in a bar in Florida. And I told him how I'd have these incredible experiences in the church. I mean, mind-blowing. Wrote some great songs about it, of the validity of this mystery. And I told him that after all these amazing experiences, I still found myself idolizing and worshiping Katie on all sorts of levels. And basically what we did was we sold everything we had and ran off to Mexico and indulged in wild hedonistic lifestyle for some time. And all of a sudden, this guy that I was at the bar with, he got up and moved a few stools away. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting out of range. He said, I think I'm sitting next to Clarabelle the Clown, and I'm afraid whipped cream's going to start squirting out of your nose, and I don't want to get any on me. I said, what? He said, you just described things that I would die to have happen to me, I'm an atheist, I'm an agnostic, and you're telling me that you've had experiential validation of all this stuff numerous times, and then you run off with this hot chick to Mexico. I think I'm talking to Clarabelle. And that basically is kind of like the story of my life. And I think over time, Katie's really believed in me and supported in me. It's also been a game on certain levels at times. But I think she really has. She's really supported me and really believed the rap. I still believe the rap, even though I'm a royal screw-up. And I think that's my chief character defect, is basically being either a coward or a weakling, or basically, like always say, lazy, or, to put it my way, is artists are usually discovered after they're dead because they're no longer around to sabotage their own careers. Okay, that's it.
Well, I would certainly agree that that's a major issue in our relationship, because when I met Arthur, and he has said many times, I didn't have a spiritual bone in my body. And it's true to the extent that I had no spiritual experiences. But the reason I was out there in San Francisco and was interested in him when I first met him was because I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for something. And I thought that with the gifts that Arthur's kind of enumerated, that he really had something to offer. He had these amazing songs. He had written quite a few when I met him. And the things he talked about and the things he was interested in, it was all about enlightenment. And I thought that here was somebody who was seriously interested in this, and our life together would be a path of adventure and intellectual adventure and spiritual adventure. And so that was really my main interest in Arthur. And that's been true. There has been a lot of intellectual adventure, a lot of spiritual adventure, but it seems like
also a lot of worldly adventure.
Also a lot of worldly adventure. But it seems like that when it really comes down to it, Arthur has refused to move very far spiritually. And
this is so great.
The
I'm so glad
more
we're doing
I
this.
have, and at a certain point, and for a long time in our relationship, because when we met, he seemed so further. I mean, he was much further in understanding of spiritual things than I was. I was basically unknowledgeable. That, I worshipped him in that way. And he was the boss. He's the one that was on top and knew the answers and led the way. And I was always just sort of a follower. And that went on for a long time, 20 years.
As long as I could milk it.
At a certain point, which is, I've talked a little bit before about how about 10 years ago, I started kind of waking up and had some profound realizations that it was like, okay, you're unhappy with your life, and maybe it's because of the path you're following, and maybe if you keep following this path, I don't think anything's going to change, And if you really say you want happiness, maybe you need to start questioning some of the premises that have led you along this path you're on. So I started doing that. And one of those questions was, does Arthur really want the things he says he wants?
Good question.
Because I was so, awed by him for so long that I just took it for granted that he really wanted what he said he wanted. But it just started thinking, well, but there's always some excuse for why it doesn't happen. And so I started striking off on my own and just not having my spiritual life or path depend on Arthur. And not that I have a very spiritual life. I'm not going to say that. It's kind of gone up and down over the last 10 years. And right now I'd say I'm kind of in an off phase of it in terms of it being an active pursuit. But in some ways, though, and this is something that has been kind of tough for Arthur and I also, is that we're both real intellectuals, if you haven't got that already. We really like the products of the mind. We like thinking about things. And one of the results of that is that we're both really opposed to the idea of a guru, of following somebody else or following somebody else's program. Because I just never in my life have I been willing to do that. I did ask after meeting Arthur. It's not that I haven't taken a class or done a program, but I've never been a follower, because it seemed to me that trusting in someone else, if they've made an error, well then you're following in their error, and you could end up spending your whole life following some and then
what I'm laughing at is like the presumption, because I'm exactly the same way. The presumption is we're error free.
No, that's not.
Really, when you think about it, we're walking basket cases compared to.
I was like, I'm going to make my own errors. I think is what I really mean. I understand what you're saying, right? But it's like I'll make my own errors. Thank you. I'm not going to follow somebody else's errors. And I wasn't, but in some ways it's harder not following a guru, because just like you're out here on your own, and
no
you have
accountability.
Right. And it's easier to delude yourself that the things are going well. It's easier to be indulgent because there's no, like you say, accountability.
And you read things like Sri Rajneesh, who collected Rolls Royces.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Everybody could bang everybody or have relations with each other.
Yeah, we spent some time sharing a house, just a very brief week or something, with some followers of Rajneesh, and they took themselves so seriously. This is before the whole expose came about. They were so together, so spiritual, and Arthur and I were such heathens. You know,
Well, they didn't do their share of the dishes.
No,
They were slobs.
they were
By
so.
their deeds, you will know them.
Yeah. So
It applies in so many ways, Christians.
and really, so that's what I was getting to. Thank you. Was that for me? My spirituality is a very practical spirituality. It is things like that, doing the dishes. How do I live my everyday? How do I behave towards the person that, the teller at the bank that I go to today, to the clerk at the post office? Am I loving that person? Am I open to them? Or am I shielding myself off? Am I hating life? Am I angry because I had to wait in line? Oh, wow, my life is so important, more important than all these other people. I shouldn't have to wait in line for anything. So, how am I acting in every moment? To me, that is my spirituality. And I fall short, very short, of what I think I should be able to do in every day. But to me, that's where it really matters, is not going to some place on once a week or something and meditating, or even meditating once a day and then going out and just being a jerk all day long and
She said, looking
separating him out. It's how I act in every moment is what counts. And it's coming from that acceptance.
I have a burning question. Will you want to go with that?
That's
Keep
okay.
going?
No, it's all right. I've said enough for right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, my question is, okay, obviously, I'm the kind of person, I write songs like, bend like a willow, Katie gave me the idea for, which means bend like a willow in the wind, or when the snow's falling on it and piling it down, the branches bend over and the snow falls off and it springs back. You flow with the way it is. If the wind is harsh, you bend in the wind and you give to it. And you survive. Where a pine that's stiff and rigid, it has to be my way, snaps like a toothpick. So I wrote a song about it. What's the last verse that it seems particularly relevant right now? More than once, this is me talking, babies. More than once I've raised my fist and shook it at the sky, cursed this path of seeking out the wherefore and the why, longing for the dawn while clinging to the starless night, girding for the battle and then running from the fight. Life is like the wind. It's sometimes gentle, sometimes rough. And anytime I hate the way it is, well, that's just tough. When I can allow what is to be, I found the way. When I can embrace the now, I rise above the fray. I've got to bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. I've got to bow to the current that we call reality. I write songs like that, and I bitch and complain and whine and am miserable about life not going my way constantly. Mm-hmm. So the question I had for you was, in the times that you forget your spirituality, mm-hmm. which, a woman is always so much more balanced and sane. It's like a great advantage to, just...
Yes.
That's a halo. It's supposed to be a halo. Ding.
Yes.
The savage grunting, yelling,
so
bellowing
what he's
male.
saying here is don't, take what I say with a grain of salt.
No, not at all. I'm saying that you yourself said there are moments. There are times when you are...
Every day, yeah.
Okay,
quite a few, quite a lot.
Well, I'm just saying in the moments that you feel really out of touch spiritually, even though it may not look like a bellowing bull elephant having a temper tantrum in the jungle.
Yeah.
What would you call that state? I think that's really a nifty way of holding it, because this is really what our whole work is about.
Well, it's
what
the
our new book is about.
It's you could always say it's non-acceptance of the way it is, non-acceptance of reality, which we say is insanity.
Insanity,
when I do not,
insanity.
And when I confuse my mind-generated reality, the way it should be, with the way it is.
Objective reality. What's happening right now in the physical universe, that car really almost hit you. Mm-hmm. Now, do you do a U-turn and get your Glock out of the glove compartment and chase him down and shoot him? Or have that fantasy, or obviously that thought came from somewhere, and almost got hit with a head-on yesterday. Some woman was was texting or yakking on a cell phone or something ridiculous.
Well,
America's newest toys.
So, yeah, I gave the example of being in the line at the post office.
Yeah.
I think that I should not have to wait. I think my life is more important than having to wait 5 minutes at the post office. So I often get irritable and cranky when I'm standing in line. So, and then...
I rave and rant. She gets cranky.
So
what we're saying
matter.
is, this is what any state of dissatisfaction, boredom, irritation, impatience, depression. What else? Certainly anger, fear,
anxiety,
worry, insanity. It's always insanity. It's a rejection of the way it is right now. It's taking out your stamp and saying, rejected, not good enough.
So
not
I think,
okay.
And I think you have a much greater tendency to reject the way things are than I do. I mean, I
do
think
indeed.
that it was part of our personalities, long before we met each other. That I think I am a much more, you would say, an easygoing personality. Where
I could puff my cheeks out and sulk, and my mother would let me get away with anything when I was a little kid.
Well, she was the same way. She called herself being born under the donkey star, and a donkey is somebody that, is immovable.
We did an interview with her, and she said, talked about her parents. She said, Daddy was too soft and Mother was too hard in her upbringing. And then she looks off camera at me and she says, and I tried to find a way in between, and I don't know what happened.
And I'm a very stubborn person also, but I seem to have a better ability to accept the way it is right now. But it's partly because I have just become completely convinced that it's the only route to sanity. It's the only route to happiness. That all of my problems really stem from my inability to accept the way it is. And I've become so intellectually convinced of that it has really helped me to practice it, because it's like, you're completely insane to do anything else. And it doesn't mean you have to, just because you accept it, doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. It means that this is the way it is. So why be angry at it? Because it is the way it is. There's nothing, you can't argue with it.
Like it or lump it.
It's here. It's now. It's this.
It's like reality is saying, well, pardon me for breathing.
That's right.
Excuse me for not being good enough for your royal grace. It's crazy. That's our message. It is crazy. Do not accept the way it is right now. And the trouble is, we're so good. The subjective ego that we think absolutely dominates everyone who isn't a practicing saint. If there are any practicing saints out there who'd like to call in,
actually, if you're a practicing saint, come to our meet and greet. We'd love to meet and greet you.
I will kiss your feet. I'll wash your feet.
I think you were making a point about. I think you were going to say was that it's really easy to pretend to accept reality.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I have definitely done that in my career.
Fellow's got to work.
And
death and taxes. An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Repression.
Warner wrote this little book in Asheville. It was a little booklet, and the title of it was, the first page said, if God had meant man to fly, he would have given him wings. Or, and you turn the page, and it says, up to your ass in aphorisms. All those cliches that, I'm a pragmatist. I have my cemetery plot paid for. I have my retirement portfolio. I'm fully in touch with reality. And yeah? How much do you love?
That's right.
How much do you rave and rant at the TV when Obama comes on?
Or seethe with resentment at the things that you don't have or you haven't done, or the bad breaks that life's given you.
Yeah. When was the last time you yelled at your kids or your spouse?
Or yourself in the mirror.
Or yourself in the mirror. Said, oh my God. I wish they would invent a plastic surgery dip. This could be completely immersed and come out beautiful and young again. To be young again. But to know something instead of being a
Well, so I think I may be better at accepting reality than you are, but I still am very weak at my self-confidence at presenting myself in the world.
That's why I've always attacked you. I mean, I realize that. I mean, so the way that I discredit Katie's placid, happy approach to life. Somebody wrote a song about it. Says, "Oh, there are two super hippies living outside of town. One wears a smile, and the other wears a frown."
That's right.
What else did he say? There's one is a lion, and the other is a mouse, but it's the mouse that crowns that house. Perfectly true. Oh, shoot, digress.
Well, I was talking about how weak I am in my presentation of myself to the world.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. The way I attack Katie is because, I mean, if she's got it, what am I still obviously floundering around acting like an infant for?
In other words, he thinks I should, like, whoosh, pull him up out of the morass.
If you're so enlightened, but it's really, it's what it is, the damnable part for me. See this long hair? This is to remind me who I am and that you will never take me alive. I'll go down and blaze a Tommy gun before you take
pacifist.
me. I'm a pacifist.
Yeah, the Glock and the glove compartment.
But that's how fiercely I resist. My first salvation was when I was 16 years old, and I realized that conformity wasn't where it's at. You didn't have to act like the high school big shots, a jock or a cheerleader. Well, a cheerleader might have had something going. Anyway, so it's a wonder I didn't become flaming.
Hey, George Bush was a cheerleader.
He was a cheerleader. That figures. Towel snapper. That's another kind of kinky area.
I think you're.
But anyway,
this is your second or third go at making some kind of point.
Yeah, the damnable part of a really balanced, sane approach to, I mean, the enlightened perspective of life really doesn't have to look rebellious at all. It can look alarmingly like a square. What a timeless word that I think perfectly sums up someone who is a complete conformist, who's never had an original idea in their lives, who've never done anything but question. I mean, never done anything in the way of questioning the tribal norm. They're just a cog in the machine from birth to the grave. And that, to me, that is the ultimate horror. And so when I see, life, we should accept. I mean, I want to love George W. Bush instead of hate his suppurating guts. But there it is. I mean, I'm not enlightened. I hate Bush. I hope he dies of head cancer, a long, slow death. That's the truth, and that's not enlightened at all. George W. Bush, if you believe your own book, you dumb idiot, Arthur, Bush is insane. He can't help acting that way. He was a towel snapper, a little privileged twit who got his way because of who daddy was, and he weaseled his way into all of these opportunities. And he finally, because this country is so stupid and corrupt, weaseled himself into the White House for 8 years. And of course, you're not going to learn a damn thing by the time this show airs. The American people are about to diligently return George Bush's, standard operating clones to power in the House. But you know what? I don't really give a rat's ass rat's rear end. Excuse me, about politics anymore. It's not enlightened. So anyway, the point is that what I'm afraid of is that it looks too normal.
Mm-hmm, right.
I treasure my rebelliousness, and it's probably infantile, immature.
Well, because maybe you're confusing. Confusing rejection of social norms with acceptance of the way it is. And I think you can accept the way it is and still, and see, that's what I said, that there's really a crucial thing to get about acceptance is that just because you accept the way it is doesn't mean you don't think aspects of it could or should be changed.
Right. Lie down and let it roll over you. Look at Gandhi. Look at the nonviolent civil disobedience. That was accepting the way it was precisely. And he got British colonialism off the back of India.
Right, which is why, I've never studied martial arts, but from what I understand of them, that's exactly what that you are trained to accept the exact nature of the attack coming your way, so you are maximally empowered to do something about it. And Aikido, from what I know, is maybe the apotheosis of that, because
there's no aggressive moves.
There's no aggressive
strikes.
It's all using the energy of the attacker you take their energy because you're so aware of what's happening, and you use their energy to move them past you with no violence, no aggression on your part.
Other than where they land.
So you're right. So you are changing the way things are in the midst of accepting the way they are. And your acceptance actually increases your power to affect change and to affect positive change.
It's so obvious. I know that. My name's on the book, too. This is our book. We are all in some reason of insanity. It's I mean, how much more obvious could it be? I thought about, at this meet and greet, I thought about asking people, tell me some examples of insanity. What does an insane person do? What makes them crazy?
Yeah.
Well, let's say, occurs to me, they see things that aren't there. They have imaginary 6-foot rabbits.
Or they
Harvey,
hear things.
I always wanted to see
in their
that
head.
movie. Jimmy Stewart, he has an imaginary rabbit that follows him around.
Yeah, I never saw that either.
They see things in their head.
Or they hear things in their head.
They hear voices.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, I don't hear voices in my head.
They look at people and say, they're trying to get me. They have paranoid thoughts. But what is that? That's all their mind-generated reality distorting actual objective reality. Actual reality is a very big word. Actual reality is the absolute truth. Nobody knows what that is. But let's just take it on the level of objective reality. You're tuned into this show right now. That's the objective reality. But a person who is mentally ill, they see that objective reality. This is a microphone, and they think it's a
device for some evil thing to come out and grab you.
The ETs are using this to suck my juice, my brain juice.
But the reason I was laughing when you were describing, giving some examples of how someone might describe an insane person was because each one of those maybe is an extreme case in the clinically insane person, but is true in my experience of my life. When you said sees things that aren't there, I see things that aren't there all the time, or miss things that are there.
I was talking about what we call a classic nut case. Okay?
Right. I just wanted to, in case people were curious why I was laughing.
Well, let's move it into our level. Let's move it up to where we're at, which could go through anorexia. When you look in a mirror and you think that person needs to lose weight, and what you're looking at is your skeleton, your skeletal body on the verge of heart failure. That's how much we can redshift it. Well, you could get
to someone like me who looks in the mirror and I think I look the same as I did 4 years ago, but then I put on a pair of pants. And it's like, no, there's more of you there than what you're. There's more there than you're seeing. We definitely overlook or don't see what's there.
That's right. We're seeing a distorted vision of reality.
That's right. And then how about the voices in our heads? I mean, that's why I laughed, because I hear voices in my head. There's a voice constantly chattering away in my head. Sometimes the song, you can be driven mad by a song, and it's something in your head singing a song, and you can't shut it up. So I'm very familiar.
Racism? Who among us is not a racist? That's what I'd like to know.
Right.
This country is so imbued with it. The whole world is.
The whole world is.
The whole world is.
It's the human condition.
And blacks are racist when it comes to whites. They have a lot of preconceptions about us. A lot of them that are founded in reality.
My mom lives in Nicaragua, and she talks about how Nicaraguans are prejudiced. The lighter skin is better. And so you're talking about, we have these, you encounter somebody who fits your racist conception, and the voice comes unbidden in your head about that. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Automatically, and that changes the reality.
And then the people are out there to get me. Well, it's like, say, when in my example of getting irritated in line at the post office, well, it's almost like all these people in line in front of me are out to get me. They conspire to get here in front of me and hold me up.
Deliberately dawdling.
That's right. We have these kind of paranoid. So the point is that there's a continuum of insanity.
Yeah. It's only a matter of degrees. And because I always love to quote this line from The Exorcist when two lines, really. One, the young Father Damien, when he's telling the old Father Karras, Damien Karras, that was his name. God, where that one came from. Quite a movie. He's telling The Exorcist, the old Father Marin, that he's starting to describe. I think I've identified 7 different entities, and the old priest looks at him and said, "There's only one." And then he's giving the young priest instruction, and he says, "The devil is a liar. He is a liar." And for devil, read subjective ego, because it's all the devil any of us will ever need to meet. He is a liar, but the devil will mix truth with lies in order to attack us. It's always, it has to be credible. Our judgments, our value judgments, our self-hatred. You should have done better. You knew better than to do that. You shouldn't have done that. You should do this. You're lazy and no good, Arthur. You know what? Maybe I'm just nuts because of you. Maybe I'm crazy. And maybe when I was 5 years old, I learned to manipulate and get my way and not have to suffer consequences. And that was my way of getting through years of basic chaos. 13 schools in 12 years or whatever it was. I don't think it was 8 schools in 12 years.
Something like that.
It was my way of playing the game. It was my attempt to survive above all things. First law of the universe, exist. Second law of the universe, survive. And the third law of the universe, which is what our work is really about, is transcend survival. It's called enlightenment. And I talk about it and I write about it, but I'm really nuts. It's like I got Guillain-Barré when I was in Kathmandu. It's called French polio. I was paralyzed from the neck down and to be flown back to the States with a doctor on the plane ready to do a trach. Most people got over it completely. They may have a little residual weakness in the hands or something. And I wear leg braces and my hands are like screwed up. This is called hyperextension, muscle wastage below the elbow and below the knees. I had a dose, and I've got a healthy dose of ego, and I'm nuts. And I feel like there's some progress being made, but maybe that's just kidding yourself up until you fall over, you cry.
So hope is what keeps us alive. Otherwise, we'd be checking out.
Like you wind up, the preacher will be saying, obviously from the look on Arthur's face, death took him by surprise.
That's right.
Paraphrase
Richard
Pryor.
Well, I was thinking as you were talking that I have come to I'm much better able to accept reality as a whole than I was a number of years back. However, what I said just a while back was that I still have trouble presenting myself in the world. Well, as I thought about that, what do I really mean by that? And it occurred to me that maybe what I'm really trying to say is that I may accept reality, the things that happen around me, but I'm still not accepting myself.
Wow.
That because if I'm insecure, which I am, if I'm shy in social situations, which I am, if I have difficulty putting my work out in the world, if I have difficulty setting a price on what I think my work is worth, those are because I do not accept myself. I am insecure about who I am and my self-worth, my value.
Great stuff.
And so this is a fundamental acceptance of reality that I'm still obviously struggling with. And I actually wrote something about this today. I mean, I was talking about how delusional I've been about aspects of my personality. For instance, for most of my life, I thought I was a non-competitive person. I thought I didn't care about winning or losing at all. And it turned out, I realized that I'm a hyper-competitive person. That's really the truth about who I am. And I mean, I was 180 degrees wrong about who I am. And I thought, if I can be, I mean, talk about intimate aspect of reality. Myself, my personality. I live here with me, for 52 years, and I don't know this reality. How possibly could I expect to understand reality out there in the world? I've just been so deluded, and so there's this level of non-acceptance of who I am.
And of course, our work comes directly to your rescue.
Oh, well, that's good.
I have a question for you.
Oh, no.
Who the hell are you? Answer truthfully right now. Speak up.
I have no idea.
There you go. So you want to be secure with that? You want to be confident? Hello, my name's Madonna. You believe those people? You think they're really confident? I guarantee you in the dark of their soul, they're terrified. They have no idea who they are. Neither do I. Neither do Katie. And maybe your real problem is you just can't fake confidence. You don't feel. But
No.
the confidence that we seek is the enlightened awareness that we don't know it from Shinola. Read between the lines. Add an ethanol as well. That's the message. That he who knows doesn't know, but he who doesn't know knows. That's it. That's enlightenment. It's humility.
Yeah, I was just...
And I hate myself so much. I feel so insecure that I need every triumph and win and award and trophy and accomplishment that I can grab my pig trotters onto. I seek greatness, ego food, because I feel so insecure. And it's self-defeating because I guess there's a real benefit for when you're kind of bashful and shy and insecure. You can't really fake it. So there's a certain honesty there. How's that for sophistry? You can't really fake that you're a big shot or a know-it-all or together.
Well, I read another psychology book, which I don't want to tell the name of it because it kind of gives away. If you want to do something fun, go to YouTube and search for selective attention test. And
selective attention test.
And just try it out and see. It's a very interesting experiment that demonstrates how much we can miss out there in reality. But in this book, they went through a number of illusions of the mind that we pretty much all suffer under, and one of them is the illusion of confidence. We think that if somebody's confident, that means they're competent, that they know what they're doing. And so somebody that acts confident, we are much more likely to choose them to either believe them as a guru or to go to them as a doctor or to vote for them as a politician.
Send them checks.
Because we mistakenly believe that their sense of confidence means they're capable of doing the job. And what they've showed in a lot of psychology experiments was that confidence is actually a personality trait. Some people are naturally confident and some aren't. It could be kind of that winner-loser thing we've talked about in other shows. And that competence has no correlation with confidence at all. And so we make a lot of mistakes in judgment based on this. And I thought about, say, our show when I was reading this, because I thought, Arthur and I sit up here and say, well, we don't know anything, and humility is really where it's at, it really accepting the fact that we don't know anything absolutely. And I'm thinking, yeah, so people out there are going, those people, they admit their lack of knowledge. I mean, why should I believe anything they say? Because we're going completely against that rule of confidence illustrates competence. And yet, I in my core, I know that it's the humility, that accepting the extent of my limitations is really where it's at. Jesus was not a confident person. He was a humble person. And in his humbleness was power that people felt, but it wasn't that kind of striding confidence that we worship in our culture.
Yeah, because the more you know you don't know, the more you know, and that gives you confidence. The more you're in touch with your ignorance, the more confident you are. I'm confident in my supreme ignorance. And I'm not preaching, man, in case you haven't noticed. When you're raving and ranting about reality, when you're not happy with the way it is, there's only one conclusion you can draw. You have opinions about the way it should be. You know that your way is right. You're confident that it should be a different way. instead of getting, I don't know, my butt from my elbow. That's the truth. The only thing we know absolutely, we've said it time and time again on the show, and it's really a salvational kind of realization. The only thing any human being knows absolutely is, and let me throw that word absolutely out. That means absolutely without limitation. You absolutely know this. No qualifiers. Is that, something's going on at this location. Something's happening. That's all I know. I have labels and all the stuff, and then it's a microphone and all that stuff. But I've been taught that. And throw in science so you know how to split an atom, but you don't know what an atom is. Question of meaning fly. So, humility is always called for. You know who I was thinking about the other day? I was thinking about Billy Graham. I mean, Billy looks like...
Billy, you know him personally?
All right, Mr. Graham, Reverend Graham. Looks like somebody that doesn't have a doubt in the marrow of his bones. Looks the portrait of absolute certainty. It's not true. It's just not true. Billy doesn't know the heart of God. He may have conversations. He may hear messages. He may have incredible experiences and feelings, but he doesn't know God. He doesn't know that absolutely what that is. He may know enough to live his life according to that path, but it's a finite knowledge. It's a limited knowledge, and I'm sure he'd be the first to agree. So we get in a lot of trouble when we throw the word no around, like we throw the word friend around, like we throw the word love around, like we throw the word God around.
Okay, so let's not get too far off into concepts.
Conceptville. Okay, I like it.
Because we've been, and
I'll tell you this, we've said on this show more than once, we're not preaching here. And I hope the last 2 or 3 shows have demonstrated that. And we have plenty of problems, folks. Lots of problems.
Well, and it's interesting because I've read not a lot, but I've read some spiritual books, kind of the popular books out there. And one of the things that has increasingly gotten irritating to me is how little the writers share about their own personal lives. They either don't talk about themselves at all, or all of their examples are from other people, like, a lot of psychologists, psychotherapists write these books. And they use their patients, their cute, quaint patients' problems as their examples. So what comes across by the end of the book is that this author has no problems, that they're above it all, and they're talking down to us little people that still need instruction in how to live. And to me, the more I've become aware of it, the more, or I should say, the less interested really I am in what they have to say, because I feel like it's not really grounded in their own personal experience, and I don't really trust them as much, because I don't believe people don't have problems. I mean, maybe Jesus didn't have any problems at a certain point, or Buddha didn't have problems at a certain point, but I mean, those people are the extreme exceptions. That the people that are writing these books do have problems, but they don't want to talk about them. And that's really where we're coming from here, is that we feel like it's through sharing of where we're at in the context of our questions of meaning that the ideas we propose will have more resonance and more meaning, because they are embedded in the context of our struggles.
Because thank heavens, the work is not affected by me being a screw-up, not living up to it, not experiencing the truth of it. It doesn't really affect the work at all, as far as I'm concerned. I just maybe I'm too screwed up this lifetime to really get off it. And enlightenment is also a very large word. I mean, I would really hate to think that a crapping apoid, you could go from this level of awareness to Godhead in one jump.
Please, let's not have it be that way.
Let's have it a
little more interesting.
A whole lot more interesting.
That's right.
And look at the world. I mean, look at our country. The United States is going down the tubes right in front of our cotton-picking eyes. Georgie Porgy let the pigs into the garden one time too many, and ended his 8 years with a absolute financial catastrophe that we may not recover from in our lifetimes. And the whole country is polarized. Nobody's listening to anybody else. Everybody's totally attacking and vilifying the other side. And once again, there's some truth. You can't just say, oh, we should all just love each other. I mean, Obama's, reached across the aisle to the Republicans for 2 years now, and his hand has come back smeared with you-know-what every time. It's just, there are, if there was a willingness, the humility to question our positions, both sides, and really look at the objective facts. It's one of the dismal, horrible sides of there's no investigative media anymore.
Wait a second.
It's
You've
really
gone way off from where you were, which was you were talking about maybe this is as far as you're going to get. That enlightenment is a huge.
It's a big subject.
Enlightenment is a big subject. And that's really the foundation for our worldview, our universe view, you may say, is that everything that is the experience of the one, we hate to use the word God, but the one experiencing the unlimited experiencing limitation. And the whole pageant of billions, trillions, whatever years of existence is the experience of all shades, every aspect of what it means to be alive.
Democrat Party.
Yeah, that's right. So that goes from being the first unicellular life forms on this planet to being in 2010 and having Democrats and Republicans battling each other. It includes having some people publish their books and some people write books that never get published. It means some people dying in complete obscurity who 100 years later are discovered to be great artists like Vincent van Gogh. That's all part of the pageant. If everyone won, well, what fun would the game be? Because winning requires losers in our dualistic universe.
So I got this.
Part of the perfection of the whole is that our lives are not necessarily going to be having a happy ending as we, in our subjective viewpoint, define happiness, but that's missing the larger picture.
Indeed, I got it just a few days ago that it seemed to me that there is only experience, like Jimi Hendrix said.
Right.
Nothing but experience. Nothing but experience. Or he also said, "Are you experienced? Not necessarily stoned, but beautiful." And It seemed to me, my realization was, there is experience and there is the illusion of non-experience in various shades. There's an experience in an electron. I don't know what it is, but it's there. Because it's like saying there's something that exists outside of the one. There's only the one, which is infinite. And the way it's infinite, the way it's unlimited, is it has the ability to do an incredibly convincing job of looking like it's limited. And that's what the universe is, an experience of limitation in all its countless forms. So experience, we define, maybe my favorite definition in all the work is, experience is being free of a survival identity. And you know when that is? It seemed to me that having a survival identity requires other. For me to survive, survival is only measurable by interacting with other. That's a little far-fetched. I mean, for at this point,
for you to exist, for me to say I exist, I have to exist in relation to other things.
Good, same thing. So I have to survive in relation to other things.
Right.
So in its ultimate, when the last vestige of survival falls away, there is only being, free of a survival identity. And that's home base. And that's where we're going to eventually, I think.
Well, where are you going?
I'm going to hell. I'm going to be put on a huge hog rotisserie and patty melted or basted for eternity. Yeah! You're going to be over there at the heavenly overlook saying, I tried to tell him. I tried to tell him, but... How's that for? Did you get some visuals off that, folks?
Yeah. So
look, we're not preaching. We're screwed up. We're crazy too. But you know what? We think we found we have the audacity to think we found a 21st century psychology. The reason the world looks like it's nuts, the reason we humans, when you really step back, there's more to life than earning a living and raising your kids and paying your taxes and buying your cemetery plot in advance. There really is more to that. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. And it doesn't mean you sit around mind relationing yourself to death. It means, what are you doing here? Who are you? Go look in the mirror. I guarantee you don't know what that is. You got a lot of history. You can talk about it, but you don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. There's salvation in that. Not get right. What is that? A salvation. It's a salvation experience.
Right.
There is more to life than 3 square meals and 2 tubular or whatever.
Thanks for watching. Hope you watch again.
Thursday, 7 to 8. Bye.